Let you all know that we have two cameramen, two cameras in the back that'll be focusing this way towards the podium. So please be mindful of that if you're going to be passing through, to make sure that you duck so that you won't be blocking our view from all the audience and our virtual audience. Also, I want to ask you to prepare yourselves to move to the spots where you're going to be sitting that for the next hour or so, as we get ready to hear some important information about our program and just exciting events coming up. So
I am an assistant professor of educational studies in adult and community education, and I am a new faculty here. We have 4 faculty in our program, so let me just introduce you to all of them. So, of course, Dr. Shelley Michelle Glowacki-Duka. Dr. Shelley is the director of the doctoral program in adult and community education. She's been an amazing leader, and she has led a whole program for several years, and we are really grateful for her leadership and support. Next is Dr. Bojang. She is the professor of adult and community education. Unfortunately, she is not feeling great today, so she's not able to attend the party tonight, but she was just promoted to be a professor, and we would love to honor this legacy of her. And we have, last but not least, Dr. Remo Lord. He is an assistant teaching professor of education studies in adult and community education. He is also a director of master and certificate programs, and we really appreciate all his dedication to making this program wonderful and sustainable for everyone. All right, so without further delay, so let's just go to Dr. Shelley. She's gonna walk you through the lane and acknowledgement. Thank you.
I also want to acknowledge Danielle Denton, who has really been the coordinator of all of the details for this program. She's amazing. Okay. So as has been recently recognized, the notions of decolonization and recognition of the land that we stand on as land that it does not belong to us. It belongs to those who were before us and whose land we have taken, so this is part of that. The land where we gather today, the Ohio River Basin, and our city known as Muncie, Indiana, has been occupied for more than 10,000 years by Native peoples, from mound builders to those who were displaced by other land disputes during settlement times. I want to acknowledge that we are latecomers to this land. We honor those who came before us. Most recently, the Lenape, the Miami, the Shawnee occupied these spaces before being defeated in the Northwest Indian War and the Treaty of Greenville in 1795. After the Northwest Indian War, the Miami invited the Lenape to live along the two forks of the White River in their territory, which is the ground that we stand on today. We recognize the original inhabitants and would like to honor all the ancestral stewards of this land on which we meet today, and their descendants living in over 1,000 tribes, nations, bands, pueblos, communities, or native villages across Indiana in the greater United States. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shelley. So next, can I have all of our current doctoral students in our program just stand up, please? Wonderful. Let's give a clap. Thank you all so much for joining the party tonight, but also we love seeing all your poster presentations, and really thank you for contributing to this event. So next, I would like you to watch a video. I would like to invite you to watch a video of what our current doctoral students, how did they feel about the program, what kind of experience that they are going through, and we would love to just, introduce you all to how it feels like to be in our doctoral program. All right, thank you. Thank you, Danielle.
I'm really interested in helping disadvantaged women and children, and I think that this is going to give me the platform and the credentials that I need to be taken seriously in that field and to advocate for change.
The faculty is fantastic. I love the fact that it's online. I love that part. Most of it is online. I also love the fact that we're treated like adults, and we work basically on our own pace with deadlines, of course, but I love the faculty.
Faculty are very communicative, supportive. They are extremely educated people, and they do not only look for people to learn, but also to bring peace in the world where they live. And I have had the opportunity to submit 3 manuscripts to the high peer review journals during the 1.5-year journey since I'm here.
When you have excellent teachers who focus on your needs, it changes your learning dynamics. And I will say that part of this doctoral program, I have forgotten that I'm taking classes. I'm not taking classes. I'm just learning and gaining new knowledge.
Notice is that there's an extreme amount of support available from faculty, and despite the fact that this is an asynchronous program, there is a very real connection amongst classmates and cohort members that is critical to success in this program.
It was a dream, and a dream came true in looking forward to transform our education system in Afghanistan.
communities and contexts, from nonprofit community supports to healthcare to criminal justice to organizations that support social change. It's just really an amazing bit of work to see the impact you have on those communities. As the programs evolve to embrace the online modalities, that asynchronous nature that you heard discussed in the video, the sphere of influence of the program has grown from our local communities to all across the country. And it's absolutely amazing to see us being able to welcome students from across the country and from around the world to be engaged with this program. Through these changes and the evolution of the program and the field, there's one thing that's really remained constant, and that's the program's focus on supporting a more just and inclusive world through adult and community education. Our program's focus on social good and combating injustice distinguish the program, and that focus shows up in the competencies and the commitments of our graduates and the communities that they serve. So as we look to the next 40 years, in a world tinted with post-truth perspectives and polarization, the work of adult and community education programs to use education as a lever for social change could not be more critical. I'm immensely proud of our work, of our faculty, of our students, of the alumni, and the communities with which you work, and I look forward to watching the program evolve and grow in the years to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steele, for sharing your powerful speech about, and we as adult and community education faculty really appreciate your leadership and your support, not just for the faculty, but also for all the doctoral and master and certificate students that are going through in this journey. So next, let me welcome Dr. Katie Buckley. She is the Dean of Teachers College, and she is the first woman who is the Dean in our college. So welcome, Dr. Buckley. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm gonna actually stand here. So first of all, okay, here we go. I am just delighted to be here. For those of you who don't know me, that's because I haven't been here for very long. I just started in July, and it has been a truly wonderful journey. Shelley will remember that the day, even before I started, the day that I came to visit and talk with people before I was here for good, I was walking around the building and she was ready for me. And she was, from that moment, such a clear and passionate advocate for this program. And so that was a very memorable, and I have my Garfield book. So I'm going to echo a little bit of what you just heard from Dr. Steele. Think of it as, in learning, you need to hear things multiple times. It's not that it's repetitive. So it is also an honor and a privilege for me to welcome you all to this celebration, to the 40th anniversary of the EDD and Adult and Community Education program here at TC. Today, as Mike mentioned, we not only commemorate 4 decades of academic excellence, but also celebrate the profound impact this program has had on the lives of our students, our communities, and the field of adult education as a whole. Since beginning in 1968, and I know we'll have a chance to hear more about the history, when the Center for Lifelong Learning first offered master's degrees, this program has evolved and it has thrived. This program itself, established in 1982, as we know, has led to more than 300 doctoral students who have completed their degrees and are out doing just an incredible array of valuable work. Since I'm new, I haven't had the pleasure of getting to know the many faculty members who have been central to this program for all of those years, but I have had a chance to talk a little bit with some of the current ones. I know they were introduced earlier, but I just want to highlight a couple of things because they are, to me, in my position, just such an important part of the heart of this program. So we know that Dr. Shelley Golowacki-Dubka, her work has emphasized community building and participatory education, and I think that is something that you see woven throughout this program. I was so sorry to hear that Dr. Bochen was not able to join us tonight, but I think those who have worked with her know that her research has broadened our understanding of adult education, including on an international level. Dr. Ramo Lord, who has also been one of the very welcoming people, this is a welcoming group, brought and really added to a very strong core of commitment around social justice and adult learning, and he has really brought new perspectives and expanded that work. And then we came in together, Dr. Kang, and her research on education in challenging environments and international education is just crucial to shaping inclusive education practices. And when we think about not only the history of the program, but the future of the program, the folks that we see are so well positioned to build on this exceptional foundation to do even more good work. And each of these faculty members embodies the passion and the dedication that have been critical to the success of this program. So as we reflect on the past 40 years, and I'm sure we'll be continuing to do that, we also look forward to the future with great optimism and excitement. The challenges facing adult and community education are ever changing, but our commitment to providing leadership and innovation through this program and through the set of programs in this area remains steadfast. So once again, I want to welcome you all here, those of you who came from afar and those of you who came from down the street. And thank you for being a part of this incredible journey. And I'm just honored to be able to join you in celebrating it.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Berkeley. And if I can tell you one thing, as we are joining Ball State, as you know, we both are new. She joined, I think, 1 month before me. But anyway, I would like to say that I really appreciate that she really take the work with the faculty really, seriously, because she scheduled the meeting with all the faculty in Teachers College, and that is amazing because she's very busy, right? Like pretty much given her the first new year and semester, and it's a lot of things just to check all the boxes, but she still took the time to get to know the faculty, come to the faculty office. Actually, she's like very much, I really, really appreciate you, Katie. All right, so next, let's welcome Dr. Jane Becky. She's gonna talk about the history and her experience with the program. Thank you so much, Dr. Becky.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much on your slide for mentioning Greenville, Ohio, actually, the Treaty of Greenville. As some of you know, I've been involved with working on preservation of the Underground Railroad, and there was a large settlement that was called variously the Greenville Colored Settlement, but more formally by people who lived there, it was called Longtown. It was right on the line. It was right on the border of Randolph County. Some of you know it. Yes, Randolph County and Darke County, Ohio. And there were 700 or 800 people at one time who lived there, and it was incredibly unique because it was multiracial. And there was a school that was started that was called the Union Literary Institute. It started in 1845. One of the people who was involved in it was Levi Coffin. And anyway, that particular school, there's a remnant of it that still exists, and we've been trying, the Preservation Society and myself have been working for years on trying to get it restored. So we're making progress. But anyway, thank you so much for kind of, bringing in Greenville, into the present and into this setting. There used to be a little white house that sat right in back of where we are. And that's where the CLLE was located, the Center for Lifelong Education. It was an old frame house, probably built in the 40s or so. And there were people there like Jim McElhenney, Roy Weaver was there for a little while, and Pete Merck, and John Craddock, and others. That was the seed of your program. That's where it started. Pete Merck was a Mott Fellow. And the Mott Foundation was very interested in community, and so they had several fellows who they hired who went through the Midwest. And Pete came to Ball State and stayed for a number of years and stayed throughout kind of the evolution, I would think, of the program. And so when you look at where the program has come from that little white house, which is no longer there, they eventually built it became the Multicultural Center, and then they knocked it over when we got a new one. And so now we have, this institutionalized building, but people loved the old one. People loved that little white house. Historians of education like to talk about education writ large, and that's what you do. That's what Adult and Community does. It's education writ large. Because of the fact that education, in its more formal sense, only exists in class, when you think about classrooms and you think about some teacher, up there yapping away and, much like I did, I'm sure. And, but it exists everywhere information is exchanged. It's in public libraries, it's in daycare centers, it's in community centers, it's in bingo halls. It's everywhere. And that's what adult education does, is that it really takes all of those places and allows you to see all of them as education. Not just formal education, but informal and non-formal as well. And I think that's one of its strengths. And certainly when we look at what you've done and the dissertations that have come out of this program, they certainly speak to community. And that too is something that is unique. And so you should all be very proud of yourselves, you know, for what you're engaged in, for the long history that it has had, for the long history that it's going to continue to have. And there's one thing, just one thing, I think, that those of you who are doctoral students are implored to do. Just one thing, and that's to tell the truth. And as Mike Steele mentioned a minute ago, particularly in this climate, telling the truth. So when your faculty members are tough on you and they get after you and they want more information, they want to know where it comes from, what they're actually asking you to do is to tell that truth. So best wishes to all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Belke. I love that part, tell us truth. It is important, and you can tell the truth in your dissertation, right? So, and we are here like to support you all. And if you get the feedback from us, it's all from the good light. We love you. We would love you to succeed in the journey. It's hard, but it's possible. And we are here for you. All right, thank you, Dr. Belke. So next, I would like to invite you to watch the video from our alumni. But first of all, I just would like to say thank you so much to our graduate assistant, Daniel. She has done a great job with all the PowerPoints. And also Hardy, he is my graduate assistant that he's been putting this video together. Amazing. Thank you. Let's enjoy the video.
Everyone, I am Dr. Carlotta Cooprider. I started my journey with the program in 2005, and I finished up around 2007. And I recall that the main reason that I chose this particular program was really I wanted to have a deeper impact on the education system.
So my name is Chrissy Suits, and I graduated from the EDD program in 2016. I started in 2010, so it took me about 6 years. I was recommended to this program by a colleague and other completers because of its inclusivity, and I knew it could like match well with my educational background. So I'm licensed in health and physical education.
Well, first, thank you for asking me. It's a real pleasure to do this, and I really enjoyed my time at Ball State, and so I'll just go on and start talking about it. First, my name's Catherine Hansman, and I'm a retired professor emerita at Cleveland State University, where I was teaching for 26 years now, counting all the part-time stuff too. But I first got interested in adult education when I was working as a music teacher way back and had adult students. And then later I was a computer analyst for the Air Force, and part of my job was to train people on using different computer applications.
Some of the key moments that I had in the doctoral program was that I was doing my study, executing my study during COVID. And it was a really good experience. It started off a little scary at first, but I had good coaching with Dr. Shelley as my dissertation chair. We checked in on a regular basis, Zoom calls, encouraging texts. That was really helpful to me.
I would say that just the sense of community that was created, there was an authentic community of learners that I was a part of. And I don't know that I've experienced that since. In education, we always talk about professional learning communities, but those environments are so forced. And what I found in the program, it was more of an authentic learning environment.
There was like 3 that I think that really highlighted my experience. And one was being able to really learn how to listen intently and empathize with my colleagues of color and recognize that I was actually privileged and that time was not a common across cultures. And so this was transformational for me, and now has afforded me to be more culturally inclusive in my planning and in my instruction.
I think it really the program from day one, it's about partnership. Is you are learning together. It's not it's someone being in education. Sometimes it feels like it's all based on standards and it's based on test scores and it's individual. But the program is really a partnership. And I believe that I learn more about myself in conversations with others.
So, you know, I think when I entered into the program, I didn't have a lot of specific goals that I could imagine professionally. And I didn't realize the depth of the experience of personal change that I would encounter. However, I would say through the experience and becoming, I still hate to use this word, but I know you encouraged us to become experts in this field of adult and community.
So my DOC program, while it's very much focused on adult learning, absolutely, it also focuses on community college. And so I was able to flip over from a 4-year institution to a 2-year institution. And I actually have my dream job, believe it or not. I mean, I never thought that I would say that, but I'm a vice chancellor that focuses on student advocacy.
I believe that my doctorate degree in education was very helpful in working with social work students and understanding people from a learning perspective, and not just from the clinical and not just from systems theory. It allowed for me to bring that level of education. What also was helpful is that I led several faculty in services, introducing them to Knowles' work.
It was so transformative for me individually, and not just my career, but really my personal mission. Some paths I've taken personally and professionally, whether it be design programs, lead teams, advocate for underrepresented students, really gave me kind of a platform to address these systemic.
This degree program, the doctoral program, the beauty of it, the utility of it is that it's vast in terms of what you can study. You have a high level of scholarly, creative freedom, but it is rigorous.
I would say enjoy every minute of what you're doing, because it is the most exhilarating time, I think, in my education.
Well, I don't know if I have any advice, but again, I make referrals from colleagues that I am with to the program very often, because I think it can so greatly enhance your understanding of how community and society and people live, work, learn, and play.
All right. Thank you all so much. You might be wondering, where are these videos from, right? So definitely they are coming from Dr. Shelley. She has conducted all the interviews with all the alumni in the program that she can reach out to. So you can tell, like, the most important thing in our program is not to just help our students who graduate, but just not to go through the journey, but we are thinking beyond that. What are you going to do after you graduate? So when we are working with the students, we want to keep that in mind, that we are helping our students to succeed here, but also beyond what they can do in the program. All right, so now let's welcome Dr. Shelley to talk about the state of address for adult and community education. Thank you.
So thank you so much, all of you, for participating in some of the videos. I didn't reach out to everyone, but I reached out to quite a few, and I appreciate all those who responded in positive ways, and even those who forgot. So it's okay. Anyway, we hope to use more of the videos and other marketing and other things later. So I appreciate all of your help and support in that. So I had lunch and I observed a seminar and had lunch with a fellow who used to be a Secret Service agent, currently works for the FBI down in Louisville, and he said that we had to have a designated survivor. So Bo is our designated survivor today. As he was talking about, how do you protect the president? How do you protect the vice president? How do you protect all of them? It was very interesting. Great way to start the day and then to end with friends. So we kind of started a little bit stressful and then it got better. So thanks so much for being here. As was mentioned before, our program has had a long history from the Little White House. I still have some of the chairs from that building in my office that Pete gave me when he retired. I was the one who was hired to replace Jim McElhaney. Jim McElhaney and John Craddock were two of the people who founded this program and the whole idea of adult education here at Ball State. So we're grateful. Both of them have passed away. Jim McElhaney in 2011, John Craddock last year or 2 years ago, just recently. The thing I didn't get done, you always think this is going to be better than, it's going to be perfect. So the thing I didn't get done was build the history document. I did pull together 299 dissertations from the Cardinal Catalog, Cardinal Scholar at the library, abstracts and names. So that's what the link is. If you link to the QR code, those are 297 dissertations, names and so forth. There were 2 dissertations that were conferred in 1984, one by Jim McElhaney and one by Roy Weaver. So it was fun to see how that works. More articles to write around the history of this program. So, Jim McElhaney retired in 2003. I stepped into his role. So prior to that, the Little House, when the Little House moved into Teachers College, I guess they moved up into the 9th floor in the educational leadership, which wasn't called that then. And then, according to Pete, there was an NCATE report in 1998 that said every department in the college needed to have a doctoral program. And so our doctoral program at that time was combined with the higher ed faculty and became adult higher and community education. In 2000, that began. The faculty members, when I walked in 2003, were Pete Merck, Joe Armstrong, Thalia Mulvihill, Roger Wessel, Randy Hyman, who were the higher ed faculty. And I think that was it, to the three and three. So over the years, the relationship built and then shifted a little. And in 2018, the college was reorganized again, with the higher ed moving back up into the ed leadership department and adult and community education staying down by us. So Roy Weaver had started his career here. He got his degree here. He went to California. He came back. He started working for the community. The Little House, the Center for Lifelong Learning, and then he became the Dean of Teachers College. So when he decided to step out of the deanship and we hired John Jacobson in 2011, he took over the dissertations that Joe Armstrong was running at that time. So Liz Strickland, if she's still here, was one of those who got reorganized to Roy Weaver. And then when John Jacobson stepped away, there was a gap, a 3 to 4 year gap. And Roy Weaver stepped back into the deanship as emeriti faculty. So we were grateful that happened. But during the time that, from 2011 to about 2017, we were really happy to have him as part of our staff as well. So colleagues retired and changed. Joe Armstrong retired in 2021. Ruby Kane retired in 2022, and she passed away this year on September 14th. A few weeks ago, many of you were at the celebration of life that they had over at the Emmons. Our current colleagues, as you've said before, is myself and Dr. Bo and Dr. Ramo and Dr. Somanita. So we're really happy to have a good team and a team looking toward the future. Bo has as Dr. Solonitas mentioned, was promoted to full professor this past year. She's also served very well in the Adult Education Research Practice Research Conference, which is the spring conference. We have two main conferences for adult education, one in the fall, which is the AAACE, and one in the spring, which is ARC. And she's served at least 2 3-year terms on that board and has run that conference for quite a few years. The last few years, since 2021, I've served as a secretary of AAACE, and I end that next week, and on Friday of next week, I become the president-elect of AAACE. So thank you all. So it'll keep me busy. It'll be great. And Ramo is the director of the Commission for Labor and Union and Workers for CLUE. And then Amy Bays Ward, who is one of our ladies up here, is the new commission director at AAACE for the Commission for Community College Extension and, something else. ECE. Yeah, and something like that. Anyway, she's a new commission director as well. So we've got 2 new commissions for AAACE from our people, and we're really happy to continue to grow the programs, to continue to grow the national organization and be a very lively presence. We also were able to co-sponsor the virtual conference day, October 8th, and give free passwords for those of our students who wanted to attend the virtual conference day. And I appreciate that many of you were able to do that too. And next year, the AAACE conference that I'll be running will be in Cincinnati. So hopefully many of us can head that way, and it won't be as expensive as Reno, because Reno is a bit of a trek to get to this coming year, or this next week. So a lot of things have happened this past year. Because I hope to end my 22 years of employment at Ball State, 1st of July, we've been making sure the program is really shored up. So in the spring, the colleagues and Danielle and I did, we were the beta test for the AAACE Commission for Professors of Adult Education accreditation process. So there's not officially yet a accreditation process, but by the end of next year, hopefully the AAACE will officially have an accreditation process, and we will be accredited, and we will be the first accredited program in the country. So yay! Obviously, we're having this party, which is wonderful, and I'm really so grateful to see multiple generations of our students, present, past, and future alumni here in the room. You guys are wonderful, and I love you all. It's just so much fun to see your faces and know that you all are doing amazing work and touching so many lives in everything that you're doing. This is so good. Currently, we have 48 active doctoral students, which is a really big number for faculty who have 3 or 4 faculty who can share. So, we love the fact that people want to be in our program. We love the fact that we can serve the people in our program, and it makes it more of a community because when you have that many people to serve, having folks do peer mentoring of each other, working together in small accountability partnerships or teams makes you guys connect in the deeper level. So even though it's an online program, and it's been an online program since COVID in 2020, we do some synchronous learning, right, for the courses. We try to have a few physical meetings a year, and the most important thing is that you reach out and talk to each other and are supports for each other, because that's the only way to get through those days when you're like, I don't want to write another word, I can't do it, I don't want to share my work, I'm afraid. Don't be afraid. This is a place where we learn together. This is a place where we build relationships that last for a lifetime. This is a place where we all grow into the next person we want to be. So the hat starts here, goes there, goes here, comes down here, and then gets tossed when we retire. So lots of changes, lots of excitement, and I hope that helps you know where we are for the program.
This is so powerful. Thank you so much, Dr. Shelley. We really appreciate her leadership and support. And also, I would like to, before we go to the next session, I would like you all to take a few seconds to just digest what we just shared with you, especially about the history of the program, because as a new faculty at Ball State, I've learned a lot from Dr. Belke and Dr. Shelley's speech about the history of the program, and I hope you do too, right? So at the end of the session, we're gonna ask about your key takeaways, the action plan. But now let's just transition to the video from Dr. Po Chang, because she was not able to make it today, but we definitely have her video about the history of UNESCO and also for the Confintia. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bo Chang from Adult and Community Education Program. I'm sorry I cannot attend this afternoon's activities since I'm sick. So I'm going to briefly talk about the history of UNESCO. UNESCO refers to United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Its mission is to contribute to peace and security by promoting international collaboration in education, science, culture, and communication. So UNESCO played very important roles. For example, it addressed the global development challenge. It shares knowledge between countries, and it builds global partnerships. In 1945, UNESCO was established. This is just after the end of World War II. In 1946, UNESCO headquarters were moved to Paris, France. In 1950s, UNESCO launched its first major programs in education, science, and culture. In 1960s, UNESCO began promoting international cooperation in development. UNESCO also supported quite a lot of very important events. For example, in 1950, it supported the national literacy campaigns in many countries. In 1950, it launched the major global program to fight against racism. In 1990, it declared that education is a right, not a privilege. In 2020, it responded to COVID-19 very actively with many countries and organizations and played an important role in COVID-19. UNESCO also supported quite a lot of educational initiatives. For example, it promoted universal primary education, it supports teacher training, it promotes international cooperation in higher ed and research. It also supports education for sustainable development. So UNESCO played a very crucial role in 7 international conferences on adult education. The first conference hosted in 1949 in Denmark, it discussed how adult learning and education could promote world peace and international understanding. The second conference hosted in 1960 in Canada, this is the first conference that established adult education as a critical area of focus. It emphasized the role of education in social development. The third conference hosted in Tokyo, Japan in 1972, it focused on the importance of adult education in national development and social change. It highlighted the need for policy to support adult education. The fourth conference hosted in 1985 in Paris, France, it emphasized the role of adult education in promoting peace and social justice. It recognized the diversity of learning contexts. The fifth conference hosted in 1997 in Hamburg, Germany, it viewed adult learning as a key to the future. It stressed lifelong learning and the need for educational reform. The sixth conference hosted in 2009 in Brazil, it addressed the impact of globalization on adult education and the importance of sustainable development. The most recent one hosted in Morocco in 2022, it focused on the role of adult education in the context of COVID-19 and digital transformation and the need for inclusive and equitable educational systems. So each of these conferences actually reflect the changing global priorities and the evolving landscape of adult education. For example, anti-social, anti-racism, and fight against COVID-19, and also the globalization, how globalization impact adult education. So these are very, very important events happened in that certain decade. So the conference encourages dialogue among stakeholders to improve policies and practice in adult learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for giving a clap, even though Dr. Po Chang is not here, but I'm sure she can feel it. All right, so you might wonder why UNESCO, right? We were just talking about adult and community education and the history of the program, but then, oops, UNESCO? Why? Why it's here? And of course, our doctoral students would be like, what is that? Oh, it's a connection. We need to connect the dots. Okay, now, so the reason why UNESCO is, I would like to welcome Dr. Remo Lord. He is going to introduce you more why UNESCO and the speaker tonight. Thank you, Remo.
Thank you. All right, first thing, Jenny, Rachel, whoever else back there, did you hear Dr. Belke? The truth. All right, yeah, that's why we have you say sources. I just had to get that out, okay? Tammy Todd, I see you. All right, so leading into tonight's keynote speaker, we met when I had emailed Bud Hall, who is the UNESCO co-chair for community-based participatory research and social responsibility in higher education. He is a co-chair with Rajesh Tandon, who's the president of participatory research in Asia. And what I was looking for is the chance to work with UNESCO and bring them here and Ball State take a lead in the Midwest to start establishing a community of learning, establishing a culture of lifelong learning. Okay, something to outlive even us who are fresh here on faculty. So we're also looking at something called the Knowledge for Change Hub. This is all planned. Nothing has been concrete yet, right, Dr. Shelley? And so we're looking to do all this. And I'd asked Bud to come. All right, Bud, he was in, when I was a doctoral student in 2003, 2004, Bud Hall come to Penn State to talk to us. And I've been friends with him since. But he couldn't make it, and so he gave us this person who's going to come and talk with us tonight. She comes from West Virginia University, where she's earning her PhD. She works in the Center for Resilient Communities. And she's working with us. She tells me anyway, she's very excited and exuberant to work with us to establish these things. And the key that we want to do is involve our doctoral and master students with us. This is a journey that we walk together. You learn, I learn, and we help the community learn and improve. So, I think I'm at my 3-minute limit. And so, without any hesitation, Katha Mercy, UNESCO mentor for community-based participatory research.
Thank you. Oops. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. As Professor Remo has said, it's a delight, it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. Being as I am both a mentor with the Knowledge for Change Global Consortium of the UNESCO, as well as the founder of the Nyerere Knowledge for Change Hub in Tanzania. So without further ado, let's get into it. This evening, I have been invited for a conversation about universities creating meaningful trajectories for responsible community engagement. So I want to begin by expressing my deepest, most sincere gratitude to Professor Remo for my presence here today. When making the invitation, Professor Remo did say that Muncie and Ball State University has many current wonderful events and that it brings together an energy that focuses on people. I am happy that this assessment is indeed true. I also want to express my gratitude to those that Professor Remo has worked with, hand in hand, towards making this evening a great experience. The students, the community members, colleagues in the department, and clearly even your dean for supporting you. Thank you. I also want to thank everyone that has taken the time to be here this evening. Whatever you're tuned in from, there are plenty of places that you could have been this evening, but you have chosen to be here. Thank you. So for this evening, I propose to proceed as follows. I will tell you a bit about myself, my work prior to shifting continents in the midst of a global pandemic, insofar as it relates to this discussion. I shall then address myself to the theme of this colloquium, universities creating new, meaningful trajectories for responsible community engagement. To conclude, I shall point us to a Global South Excluded North initiative, being the UNESCO Chair in Community-Based Participatory Research and Social Responsibility in Higher Education, and their Knowledge for Change Global Consortium, being an example of meaningful praxis and creation of a critical mass towards universities forging meaningful pathways for responsible community engagement. I want to pause here and thank Danielle for my gift pack, which you gave me this evening. I thank you. I shall wear that Ball State t-shirt until it's... Well then, before I became a PhD student at the West Virginia University in 2021, I used to facilitate formal lifelong learning for undergraduate students in a BA program on governance and development. I also used to facilitate non-formal learning, training, and capacity building of civil society organizations, their partners, their donors, government agencies, and local communities across the world. With a bachelor's degree in environmental studies from my home country in Kenya, an MSc from Belgium, I also used to conceptualize, design, fundraise, manage budgets, implement and evaluate development projects that was centered on active citizen participation towards engagement with duty bearers for social justice outcomes in public service provision. What is notable about these engagements was that whether in my home country of Africa, my home continent rather, of Africa, or in the faraway places of Asia where I engaged this work, it was geared towards one primary object: bettering people and bettering communities. What was also notable was the institutional training philosophy that was rooted in pedagogical approaches that lay emphasis on learning that was premised on social transformation and that therefore were participatory, experiential, out-of-classroom learning, and solution-seeking. One of the courses that I was teaching was measurements in development with the Sustainable Development Goals as my reference point. I was going about my work when one day the then executive director called me to his office for a quick chat. Apparently, given the alignment of our philosophy of learning, the UNESCO Chair in Community-Based Research and Social Responsibility in Higher Education was seeking an entry point for their mentorship training within our region. This mentorship training would lead to the creation of a Knowledge for Change Hub. A Knowledge for Change Hub being a tripartite partnership between an institution of higher education, a community, and a civil society organization. This triad would develop research capacities for the co-creation of knowledge through collective action by practitioners, community-based researchers, community groups themselves, and academics being contribution towards the attainment of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Did I think I could take that up with them? Well, am I here this evening as a UNESCO mentor? Am I here this evening as the founder of the Nyerere Knowledge for Change Hub in Tanzania? Yes. Yes, I am. So then, what does it mean to say universities creating meaningful trajectories for responsible community engagement? What is responsible university community engagement? And what social responsibility do we bear in our engagements with communities? My starting point has to be an acknowledgement of the fundamental paradox that lies at the heart of the education. On one hand, education contributes to the creation of economic and social division and the perpetuation of sociocultural marginalization. On the other hand, education provides opportunities for individual empowerment and social transformation. This is because as universities, as educators, we remain at the heart of innovations and ideas that address the most pressing of social challenges, whether that's deepening global inequalities, disaster risks, sustainable development, global climate change. Chris Brink, former Vice Chancellor at Stellenbosch University in South Africa, inviting us to reflect on what constitutes the soul of a university, suggests that there are two key questions that we should ask ourselves about our academic work. The first is, what are we good at? And the second is, what are we good for? If you are in the academic space, the answer to the first question is relatively clear. Being in the universities, we teach. Being in the universities, we research. Being in the universities, we render service. As to the second question, what are we good for? This lies the key to unlocking new meaningful trajectories for responsible community engagement by universities. Paraphrased, creating meaningful trajectories for responsible university community engagement in this present day is a question of what is our social responsibility as institutions of higher education. As an attempt to address this conundrum, I draw briefly from Dr. Leslie Wood and her publication, Community-Based Research with Vulnerable Populations, Ethical, Inclusive, and Sustainable Frameworks for Knowledge Generation. Professor Wood is the Director of Community-Based Educational Research at Northwest University in South Africa. She is a member of the Academy of Community Engagement Scholarship and the Academy of Science of South Africa. To create meaningful trajectories for responsible community engagement at a time when, as universities, we are having to navigate fundamental challenges to our purpose and our vision, we must reflect with intention on two things. At a micro level, we must contend with a knowledge question. Who can know? Whose knowledge counts? Who can access knowledge? What does it mean to recognize knowledges created by the impoverished, the excluded, the oppressed, the marginalized, those on the margins of society? How is knowledge validated? How is knowledge used? What do other archives of knowledge, such as those of indigenous peoples, fit within our higher education framework? And at a macro level, we must grapple with how to build capacity across academic disciplines to do research that is engaged, not just in the social sciences, but also in this age of global climate change and catastrophic disaster risks, in the natural sciences, the so-called hard sciences, all while ensuring that the learning of the community itself is recognized and sustained, and that ethical considerations remain paramount. This evening, I propose that, given its two principles, the embrace of democratization of knowledge and the emphasis on the value of lived experiential knowledge of those existing on the margins of society, community-based participatory research offers higher education a pathway for higher education institutions to reimagine what they are good for. An obvious question at this point would be to ask, so where does one begin to create, how does one begin to create meaningful trajectories for responsible university community engagement? Let us stay with South Africa for some inspiration. The social context in South Africa is that it is actually the most unequal country in the world. So despite legislation being enacted to encourage universities in the country to do research with and alongside communities to address this gap of inequality, university research still skews towards doing research for and on behalf of communities. Some scholars call that a savior posture or helicopter research. This in contrast with what Paulo Freire, who says that, I quote, attempting to liberate the oppressed without their reflective participation in the act of liberation is to treat them as objects. So in South Africa, we find Professor Heloise and Professor Deirdre at the Faculty of Education and Adult Education at the Nelson Mandela University, Port Elizabeth, in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. They tell us that their Center for Community School was established as an engagement entity, with one of its core mandates being to develop alternative approaches to school improvement. Their task was that their approach had to be relevant and responsive to the contextual reality of the under-resourced schools around their universities. Did they think they could do it? They did. They did. What did they do? As a center, they leaned into Sean's ideas of reflective practice as a way of improving relationship building. They benefited from the fact that, and I think this is important, schools requiring assistance with after-school reading and mathematics clubs around them was a need that they had been approached by the schools themselves. These under-resourced schools had been inviting unemployed community members to run these after-school reading and mathematics clubs as volunteers. So the volunteers asked the university to provide training and support to them. So what worked in this particular scenario? What worked was placing relationship building at the core of the process. The Center for Community School did not know these community volunteers, and the community volunteers did not have a pre-existing relationship with Nelson Mandela University or with the center. However, they took the time to know one another through the process of negotiating what would constitute appropriate support. What worked? The university as a place of power, the so-called ivory tower being accessible to the community. That worked. There were hiccups, obviously, the professors explained that, but the fact that the community had confidence to go and ask the university for assistance, if nothing else, is an example of a university as a public square in the sense that Achille Mbembe defines it. Accessible. Its mandate understood for the most part by the community around it, enough for them to know that they can approach that university for support. What worked? To me, reading these particular case studies, one of the more interesting things asked by the community volunteers was that the Nelson Mandela University gives them a certificate. This certificate being recognition of their work as community educators, And why did certification emerge as a negotiation point? The Center for Community School at the Nelson Mandela University is affiliated to the Global University of Lifelong Learning. The Global University of Lifelong Learning is a non-profit network that enables its affiliated organizations to recognize the individual and collective efforts of those who are contributing to change, progression, and transformation in communities. And this is why this was important to me, because a certificate like that opens and offers tangible prospects for emancipation and transformation at 3 levels. 1, the under-resourced schools who did not have a trained tutor now have a better tutor. The tutor has a real opportunity to change their life using that certificate by sourcing for economic opportunities or employment. The university gets to further its mission of what it is good at, which is enhancing learning. Relationship, inclusiveness, transformation, improving lives. These are some of the operational words that keep recurring insofar as it concerns responsible university community engagement. So then imagine my happiness while I was preparing for this colloquium, and I took a look at Destination 2040, which is Ball State's strategic plan, the flight path for, no, I love it, I actually like that. It's a flight path for the second century. And words like social responsibility, inclusiveness, improving lives are just jumping at me from the president's address. Among others, the Ball State 2040 flight plan strategy commits the institution to have students take a course that focuses on societal issues or a global challenge. It commits to tailoring educational opportunities and delivery methods to enhance personal development. It commits to collaboration with others for impact as a strategy to move the university forward into 2040. To me, these institutional commitments speak to reflection with intention as to what the social responsibility of Ball State University is at a micro level and at a macro level, at a local level and at a global level. These commitments also mirror the aspirations of the Sustainable Development Goals, which at a very fundamental level are about improving lives. As a global policy framework for development, Goal 4 specifically, inclusive and equitable quality education and promotion of lifelong learning opportunities for all, informs the UNESCO Marrakech Framework for Action, which we've just heard about. The Marrakech Framework is intended to guide global adult learning and education strategies and policies for the next 12 years. Ball State University, Department of Educational Studies, Adult and Community Education Graduate Program, you are exactly where you need to be. And in being here, there exists a strategic opportunity to engage with the UNESCO Chair in community-based participatory research and social responsibility in higher education, to join a growing social movement of community-based researchers and adult educators in the global north, in the global south and the excluded north. This UNESCO Chair, born of the 2009 UNESCO World Conference, is co-chaired by Professor Bud Hall. Professor Remo has touched briefly on him. He is based at the University of Victoria in Canada. He is a pioneer in adult education and the founder of the Participatory Research Network. He is a lifelong advocate of moving people and their daily lived experiences of struggle and survival from the margins of epistemology to the center. And then there's a co-chair, Professor Rajesh Tandon, who is based in Delhi in India. And he is, as Professor Remo said, the founder of Participatory Research in Asia, which is a global center for participatory research and training. We did establish that the question, what are universities good for, paraphrased as what is the social responsibility of higher education institutions, holds the key to creating new, meaningful trajectories for responsible university community engagement. Bud Hall and Rajesh Tandon define social responsibility in higher education as, I quote, social responsibility within a knowledge democracy framework composed of several directions: as a civic space for learning, as decolonized and local curriculum development, as engaged teaching and action, and as research which negotiates knowledge and society, end of quote. Let us recall that to create meaningful trajectories for responsible community and community university engagement, at a time when as universities we are having to navigate fundamental challenges as to our purposes and our vision, we must reflect with intention on the knowledge question, including who can know and whose knowledge counts. A knowledge democracy framework encapsulated within community-based participatory research as a university community engagement approach expands the space of who can know and whose knowledge counts. It creates room for other ecologies and archives of knowledge as elaborated by Sabelo Gatsheni. In so doing, it offers a pathway not just for co-creating knowledge, but also for creating solutions that serve the felt intellectual and material needs of our communities, as with the Center for Community School at the Nelson Mandela University in South Africa. So, how do we move towards knowledge democracy as a way for universities to create meaningful trajectories for responsible community engagement? By recognizing alternative sites of knowledge, our communities where we work in, excluded knowledges, indigenous knowledges, people's epistemological and cosmological orientations as being part of a global knowledge movement to address present-day planetary health challenges and sustainable development. So let's circle back to that chat we had between my executive director and myself. As we speak, UNESCO K4C hubs are a growing consortium, a social movement of community-based participatory researchers and adult learners and educators, a network of training hubs in all regions of the world, from Malaysia to Ireland, Uganda to Italy, South Africa to Canada. Our goal as actors in higher education, learning, research, and service to adults and communities, being informed by constantly asking ourselves, what are we good for? Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Katha. So, all right, so I really appreciate your speech, and you really help us to think about the two questions. Can you remind me of the two questions? Definitely. What are we good at? What are we good for? And these are very practical, not just, everyone can reflect on that. Students, what are you good at? What are you good for? Faculty, staff, but also the institution as a whole, right? So, all right, now we are in the very fun part. At the very last but not least, I would love to invite you all to think about what are the two key takeaways that you got from Katha's speech. So we have 2 bags of gifts that are waiting for the owners. So these 2. Yes. All right, so the first one, what are the 2 key takeaways from Katha's speech? Can I have a volunteer? Some cool things are in there, waiting for the owner. Can you please introduce yourself and then thank you.
I'm sorry. Dr. John Anderson. I was really drawn to this notion of democratizing knowledge and appreciating the ways in which people know. And since being in higher ed, and this is one of the reasons that I was really attracted to our program, is that there was this broad opportunity to democratize knowledge. One of the things that I was really passionate about was bringing Africana scholars to my bibliography, my dissertation bibliography. And Dr. Shelley said, well, okay, I don't have that knowledge base, but I told her about Dr. Karanja Carroll, who was an Africana PhD scholar and earned his PhD from Temple University, the first Africana Studies PhD program in the country. And so he was on the East Coast, and he was like an auxiliary dissertation committee person, because at BSU you can't have scholars outside of the university on your committee. So Dr. Shelley, ego aside, she vetted me, like, who is the guy, and what? Let me see, his publishings, and she, ego aside, she said, well, what is he saying? Okay, and where is he directing you to? And because she really wanted me to, she recognized my commitment to prioritizing Africana scholars in my bibliography, in my dissertation, but she also coached me as my dissertation chair to get that knowledge in such a way that it would be respected in the larger community of scholars, across the globe. And so when you talk about democratizing knowledge, ego aside, dissertation chair, he said, and by Dr. Carroll's own admission, he says, wow, he says, I don't know what you're a part of, but that's unusual. He says, because usually dissertation chairs want some level of alignment because they want their work to exist in perpetuity. He says, so like, this is cool. So that's what I was drawn to. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Thank you so much. And this is your gift. All right, so now we go to the last question. What are the two key takeaways that you got from the history of adult and community education? If you cannot find two, just one. It's fine. But what is the key thing? All right, Sandra. Please introduce yourself.
I believe the key takeaway of adult and community education is the transformation of adult education. Education has always been in the normative academic environment, very professional, and we're now structuring it in such a way that it touches every aspect of life, which is adult education. I don't believe lifelong learning is continual learning. And it doesn't matter whether you're a waitress who's being trained to serve better. That's adult education. Adult is learning something new. I work with the homelessness community, teaching and developing financial literacy curriculum, which hasn't genuinely been defined. And it's time for that to be defined so that it can have standing in adult and community education, because that's the homeless individuals will become contributing members of society. And so my takeaway is how we're moving to an authentic environment. And I think it's important. That was my takeaway.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I love the word authentic. I think it is really important that we are leading and growing together in an authentic way. All right, so to conclude the session for tonight, I would love to welcome Dr. Shelley to give the conclusion speech. Thank you.
Again, just want to thank you all for coming tonight. For those who are able to see us through the technology, thank you people who are running the technology. Thank you to the catering. Thank you to the housekeepers. Thank you to the photographer. Thank you to everyone who's helped make this evening possible. I'm so grateful that we're all here. We could celebrate together. And, you know, I hope you don't wait another 40 years before you have another party like this. So thank you so much. Enjoy the evening. We look forward to be in touch with all of you. Of course, since we gave you dinner for free and we didn't make you pay, there's an opportunity to donate back to the program for the James McElhaney Scholarship Fund. That's for people who are in the adult education master's or doctoral program. If you're a cognate in the program, that works too. But this is the link, and it's in the program, I think, as well. So please, please, please support the scholarships that support the others around you. So thank you all.